The guy died though, and I was happy. Like, I was so glad. I couldn't tell anybody at that point until I graduated from the university. They had such beliefs, but a lot was actually going on, and the parents don't really pay much attention to what they do and what they don't do, because they just believe, oh, ẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ̀ ni, àbúrò ẹ̀ ni, they are brothers and sisters, they are safe in each other's company and things like that. Don't just give him a chance to explore whatever he has seen or whatever curiosity he has. Don't give him or her a chance to explore with your child. I was shocked. I didn't know what it was, but it stimulated my curiosity. It made me curious. It made me wanted to know more. It made me wanted to answer questions that kept popping up in my mind. What did he do? Did it happen? What was he going to do if I didn't run away from him? And all this. And it was so bad that at that very young age, if I see a guy peeing anywhere, I would, kind of stylishly walk around because I want to see what's there. I want to know what I touched. I want to see how it looked. I want to, it just created a lot of nasty damage at that point. As much as I didn't understand what it was and I didn't know what he was trying to do at that time, I became very hostile to the male gender. Once I see a guy, once I see a boy, I believe you are wicked and you are dangerous. So the next thing, I want to keep away from you. I want to stay away from you. I want to stay as far as possible from you. Mind you, at that same time, not just that, I kept that act, I kept it, that incident, I kept it a secret. I couldn't tell anybody at that point until I graduated from the university. I think that was about 4 or 5 years ago. I was about going for NYSC, and it was a conversation that made me open up to my sister. She was talking about how back then there used to be a lot of uncles, aunties, cousins, in the same house, and the families raised them together, and the parents don't really pay much attention to what they do and what they don't do, because they just believe, oh, ẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ̀ ni, àbúrò ẹ̀ ni, they are brothers and sisters, they are safe in each other's company and things like that. They had such beliefs, but a lot was actually going on which the parents were not paying attention to. Somebody else would call it carelessness, but I call it as what should I call it now? I call it as they were unaware. They didn't know enough at that point, unlike the parenting system that we have in these days. When I told my sister, she was mad. Should I say rewind to after the incident? Whenever this guy comes to the house, I became very scared. Once I hear his voice, I would run into my mom's room. I would, cover myself with duvet or blankets, and I'll start acting like I was sick and I couldn't come out to greet him or anything. Of course, I didn't tell anybody, so they thought I wasn't just fine or something. When I hear his voice, I become terrified. I feel like there's a looming danger around me and things like that. I battled this for so long that even my mom would send my siblings to come call me. Oh, hello, Titiwa, Akin is around, go call Titi. Because of course my mom knew I was his favorite baby and stuff like that. Little did she know that Akin was a dangerous person. Okay, so fast forward to a few months after that, somebody came to the house and was like crying and all that, and the person was like, and my mom was like, hello Shelle, my dad, everybody, and the person broke the news of his death, that he died. I was there, I was a baby, I was a young baby girl. I was glad. I almost shouted for joy. I almost screamed, because that moment I felt like I'm free. I felt freedom. I felt security. I felt like now I'm safe again, because it was more like, as long as he is around me, as long as he keeps coming to that house, anything bad can happen to me. And I couldn't have told anybody what happened, what he did to me. Why didn't I? I didn't tell people because immediately I thought, if I tell my mom, she may think I'm beginning to keep bad company. Mind you, this is the point I want people to actually take note of. I thought she may start thinking I'm keeping bad companies and might want to separate me from my friends. I thought if I tell anyone, they may think that I am lying. What if they believe him over me? You know how everybody starts to perceive me. Of course, I didn't tell anybody, so I don't know how exactly they would react. But I had these things in my mind, and I felt it was wiser not to talk about it. I was like, okay, if I tell people about this and this guy denies it, and then he decides to come to hurt me, what will happen? People would not know he's the one that has hurt me. And I just played everything in my head, and I thought, oh, it's wiser not to talk about it. And the reason I didn't talk about it was because people would not believe me, or people would perceive me in a certain kind of way. So it's just so unfair when I see that people who has been abused or molested by some people sums up courage to come out to say this person is evil, just so whoever is operating around them can be careful. Then some godforsaken cursed persons will come up to say, why didn't you talk at a particular point? Why are you just coming up now? Do you even think? Do people have conscience? Fine, he didn't have his way with me, but he could have if he didn't die. For as long as he kept coming to my house, I would always, as young as I was 5 or 6, I would always be battling with that sense of insecurity as a young person. I became hostile to people. I told you, what if, and at that point he had not even had his way with me. What if he did? What would have become of me? The sense of curiosity that he aroused within me almost messed me up, because I even took it out on a much younger person in the neighborhood. I was curious. I wanted to know what it was. So I went on a particular day. I called a girl, because I didn't even know it was supposed to be between, of course at that time, I didn't know it was supposed to be between a boy and a girl. I called a girl and I was like, okay, I was trying to explore. Oh, mind you, before that, I don't know, everything just happened at the same time at that time. I think one of the boys, like older boys in the neighborhood also, called me one day. I was like, come. Then I went to him and he took me to their house and told me to lay on the chair. I did lay on the sofa, and he came lying on me and started, pressing his body hard against my. I was like, what has happened? I remember vividly well, he didn't pull his clothes, I didn't pull my clothes. It means that child is also being exposed to some kind of, wrong thing at that stage. And he too was seeking for answers, so he decided to explore with me. I too had my own experience, and I was just coming out of that, and I'm experiencing this again. So that happened again, and I'm like, no, there is more to this thing. And I kept looking for answers. Of course, I didn't tell anybody, but I was looking for answers. So it damaged me in a lot of ways. Thank God it didn't get to the extreme, but for a very long time I was hostile to boys. And this is a public apology to all the boys that I grew up with, who would always see Titi as a witch or as a wicked girl. It's not my fault. It was because of the things that I was passing through at that time, and I was trying to guide myself so serious, because I didn't tell anybody and nobody told me anything. But instinct, is there for everybody and at every age. At that time, I didn't know it was, but I knew it was a kind of dangerous thing. I knew it was not good, and I was acting in the ways that I thought I could protect myself most. And so that was the reason I was like that. Down to secondary school, I was a bad girl. I don't relate with boys, as in I don't relate with boys. But fine, I fortunately somehow got close to, I think, 1 or 2 guys along the way. But those guys, I want to even say kudos to you guys for tolerating my excesses, tolerating my hostility. I think they tolerated me, because I wasn't the sweetest soul in the relationship or friendship that we shared. They were just amazing, and they just probably loved me for who I was, and were willing to stand by me, accept me, tolerate me, and everything. But these are the stories behind the hostile, kind of harsh person I was towards boys while I was growing. So this is a charge to parents. I had somebody say, I would never let outsiders into my home. I would never let people I don't know into my house. And I was like, what if these things happen in school and it doesn't happen in the house? What if? But she responded that to the best extent she would prevent these things. And I'm like, okay, say strangers don't come to your house, or outsiders don't come to your house. Your kids are gonna have cousins, uncles, aunts, nephews and nieces come around, and these are people that has been exposed to some other kind of experiences, and they will bring it into your home and probably experiment with your children. And she was like, even if this people comes into our house, she's still going to be very intentional about monitoring them and know what is going on. She was like, if she was to leave, she would never leave a female child in the custodian of a boy, whoever the boy is, because you are tempting. She literally said, you are tempting the boy and you are exposing the girl. And I'm like, how? And she was like, kids these days are exposed to things. You may think they don't know. Of course, my mother didn't know I had been exposed to such thing, or a sense of curiosity has been triggered within me. She didn't know. So just the same way a boy from somewhere might have been exposed to these things, you wouldn't know. So don't just give him a chance to explore whatever he has seen or whatever curiosity he has. Don't give him or her a chance to explore with your child. So summarily, guys, I just want to say that let's be more careful in bringing people to our homes. Let's be more intentional in keeping watch over our children. Let's give a more accepting and less judgmental atmosphere to our kids. I'm not saying my mother would have said one thing, but at the same time, my house, I told you, was a large family. There were a lot of people in the house. What if my mother understood me but the aunties don't understand? What if the aunties understand and the friends don't understand? So I just don't want to be, I didn't want to be that person that some lagwaja has a kind of opinion about that is not so good. So I decided to keep it to myself. Let's be there as much as possible for our kids and our friends and whoever has these stories. Let's make ourselves, open and welcoming. Yeah, this is what I have to say. So that's my story. The guy died though, and I was happy. Like, I was so glad. I was happy. I must have danced severally at the thought of his death. I was glad. Even till now, I don't know, but I still thank God that God desired to take him at that time, because he would have, who knows, he might have just come and cannibalized my own young life that was just coming jejely. May his soul rest in peace wherever he is, and I pray God forgive him and he made it to heaven. But thank God he died at that time.